And I'll even go back to that earlier question you asked me. How was my last year?
Mm-hmm.
Suddenly losing my father,
Mm-hmm.
and then shortly after, 6 months later, losing my mom.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, it challenges my identity because I can't pick up the phone anymore. Like, and my very being is challenged.
Mm-hmm.
It's bigger than I can't pick up the phone. My body wants to pick up the phone.
Mm-hmm.
My mind wants to pick my mind, my heart, my everything wants that embrace. My everything wants that conversation. My everything wants them.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't ask anything ever again.
Mm-hmm.
And that sucks.
It does, yeah.
It sucks.
All right, guys. Hello. Welcome to Her Story Hour podcast. And for those who have joined before, welcome back. We're so happy to have you here today. And I'm so happy to just be here with my longtime friend. We've been friends for
a long
time. Since 2010 or
maybe a little earlier. Actually.
Yeah. No, it had to have been 2010.
2010?
Because that's when I went to Clarksville.
Okay.
Yeah.
2010. That's a long
time.
It's 2025.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
We've been cool for a long time. And we really met because she was a singer, musician, and we had mutual friends. And then we just clicked.
And I think the compliment we got all the time was we look alike.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's the case now.
Right.
But back then,
we looked alike. It was the cheeks. It was the smile. It was all of it. We looked alike. We really did. So I have my lookalike here with me today.
Hi.
People call her Doreé. Some call her Becca, like me. I've been knowing her for a long time, so I get to call her Becca. Yes. But I'm so happy that she is here with me today, and just to share a little bit about her and her experiences and just her story, because it's what it's all about. So, do you want me to call you Doreé or Becca?
You can call me Becca.
Okay.
You can call me Becca. Okay. But you guys can call me Doreé if you like. Yeah. That's my middle name.
Yes. So tell us a little bit about you, Becca. Where do you live now? Where did you grow up? What do you do? Tell us because she does a lot. I'm gonna go ahead and put that out there. She might not mention it all, but just know she does a lot.
I do things.
Yes. So please tell us.
So I'm Rebecca Doreé, and I am from Los Angeles, California, born and raised. I used to live in Clarksville and Nashville, and currently I reside in Atlanta, Georgia. And what else? What do I do?
You do hair.
I'm a cosmetologist. I'm a hairstylist. I've been licensed since 2007. I am a singer, musician.
What do you play?
I play the bass guitar.
Mm-hmm.
I play the bass guitar, electric bass guitar, as well as along the way, I picked up the upright bass. Most people call it the double bass. Whichever you choose, it's the same instrument. But I do play that instrument, but I play the bass guitar more fluently. But I always tell people my first instrument is my voice, and then secondary is the bass. Also, I am a worship coordinator and music director of All Grace Church, a new church in Atlanta, All Grace Church Community. What? All Grace ATL Community Church. There we go. Something like that. It's a new church, but I enjoy that position. Enjoy helping to build from the ground up. So that's who I am. Well, should I say that's where I'm from? That's what I do. Who I am first and foremost a child of God. And I am the daughter to the late Robbie K. Henry Sr. and the late Debbie A. Henry Sr. And I have lots of siblings. I am the youngest girl of 10 children. And that's who I am. I am her.
Yes, and she is beautiful too.
Thank
so
you. So
beautiful. She's here today because this is something that we all deal with, and this is something that I've actually dealt with personally too. But this is something that I just feel like we need to have a conversation about, because some may not know how to get through it. Some are going through it. Some are just experiencing something. Some may feel like they're just by themselves. So we're talking about grief today. And so I want to ask you, how was your year last year?
Child.
I know that's a loaded question. So first, tell me about your upbringing.
Okay. My upbringing, I grew up in a 2-parent household. My father was a pastor, and my parents were very strict.
I know about that life.
Yes. And with that, it was, I can't even say just church every Sunday morning. It was church all day, every Sunday. Bible studies during the week. I was in public school until the 3rd grade. And from the 3rd grade to the 8th grade, went to a private Christian school called Little Lambs. 9th grade year was homeschooled. And my 10th grade, my 10th grade year on out, my parents, I didn't understand the value in this until I did. My parents, they started their own school, and that's where I graduated from. The family gathering, preparatory school, Christian Academy.
Wow.
I think I got that name wrong a little bit, because I think I left out some words. But I would.
That is a title.
It's a long title.
I didn't know that though.
Yeah. That's where I graduated from. Grew up in Los Angeles, California, and again, like I said, my parents, while they were strict, a lot of stuff I began to realize as I got older, especially with where I come from. Mm-hmm. Like, where I come from, you're not supposed to make it. There was a lot happening on the streets of Los Angeles, and I realized my parents were they were strict, but as I got older, I realized they were protective. Okay. Even in growing up in church, like the church that my dad pastored was New Haven Arrest Missionary Baptist Church, but we fellowshiped with the Kojic, the Apostolic, the Pentecostal, everybody. I did not go to children's church.
Okay.
We were in the sanctuary.
Shame on you. Oh, you're in
we were in the sanctuary.
Okay, the big boy.
Yeah. Because my mom was on the organ.
Yeah.
And with that, I mentioned that because now that I'm older and I hear a lot of stories, I didn't understand why I couldn't hang out with the kids in the parking lot, why I couldn't do certain things. It didn't make sense to me. But again, now that I'm older, I realize there's a lot of experiences that some people I grew up with had that I would say caused trauma that I didn't understand until I got older. My parents were protecting. I'm like, why can't I do this? Why can't I do that? I didn't understand. So about my upbringing, I would say I grew up with protection and love, even when I didn't understand it.
Yeah.
Even when it didn't make sense. I grew up in a home where my parents lectured us all the time, to the point we sitting there falling asleep.
Oh.
We grew up with lectures.
Okay.
Grew up with, my siblings. Grew up with my grandmother, my father's mom. I was named after her. She passed when I was about 5 years old.
Okay.
I never met my mom's mother. She passed well before I was born. So I grew up around a lot of males.
Okay.
Uncles, my grandfathers. My dad only had 2 sisters. So I didn't have a lot of aunties. My uncle, he married some people.
Okay.
And honestly, I can't say it like that. They were great women.
Yeah.
And so I just said that to say I didn't have a lot of aunties.
Gotcha.
Didn't have a lot of aunties. Had a lot of uncles.
Gotcha.
So I grew up around a lot of male figures, a lot of male presence. My mother, she just, to me, was a jewel. She was the same person in front of people that she was behind closed doors. I've never heard my mom gossip. I never heard those things. My dad was who my dad was. My dad was the same person in front of people and behind closed doors. My dad was a protector. He loved his family. And with that, my parents were married for many, many, many years. And I grew up in that, and I grew up in a space where, while we understand marriage is marriage, you might like the person today, you might not like them tomorrow. But one thing I can always say is, no matter what my parents went through, they were always on the same page when it came to their children, when it came to discipline, when it came to our education. I don't know what they talked about behind closed doors, but in front of my face, they were on the same page. And so I grew up in a cohesive home. Yeah. I grew up with structure. I grew up with standards. I grew up with examples. I grew up with my mother as my mentor. Yeah. I appreciate everyone who has come in and out of my life, but I grew up with my father. Yeah. I grew up with my mother, and they were the standard.
And that matters. I feel like that just builds a person.
Yeah.
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 That matters a lot.
Yeah.
So even with getting all of that, do you feel like that really has shaped you to the person that you are today?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Do you, with everything that you've gone through, like from, let's just say, teenage into adulthood and all of that, did your upbringing help you in those areas?
In what way?
In the ways of, let's just say, I had a strong foundation in the Lord and all of that. But when I moved out of the house, since I felt I was so sheltered, I still did my own thing and I still wanted to do whatever. But eventually I came back.
That's a really good question. So I would say for me, yes, like they built such a strong foundation, meaning the same teachings we got at church with my dad are the same teachings we got at home. Even greater, I would say, because at home, it wasn't just, all right, let's pray and go about our day. We were challenged to live out the word. I remember, oh my gosh, my mom gave us the fruit of the Spirit. And while I mentioned I am the youngest of 10 children, the youngest girl of 10 children, I have 2 brothers that are my fathers, and there are 8 of us between my mom and dad. So there are the fruit of the Spirit. We each got one.
Okay.
I had to break that down because we each got a fruit of the Spirit. My fruit of the Spirit was long suffering.
Oh,
right.
Wow.
It was long suffering.
Okay.
I brought that up to say we were always challenged to live out the word of God. And I remember getting the lesson on the fruit of the Spirit. And she said, this is your fruit of the Spirit. So when you go about your day today, keep this fruit of the Spirit in mind. And I never forgot that. And so with long suffering and keeping the other fruit of the Spirit in mind, I had to set my pride aside. I had to set so many things aside to really understand at the level I could at that time what that meant. But again, I brought that up to say, like, we were challenged to live out the word throughout our entire lives, especially in our teenage years, because as I said, I was sheltered. But at some point, my mom began to let me breathe and I got to make a choice. Now, for me, I had become I can converse with most people and enjoy most people. But because I saw how people were moving, and when my mom finally said, you can go do X, Y, Z, there were some things I just didn't want to do because in my mind, like, oh, they're a liability. That's how I saw things. Now, those were my teenage years, and those were my years still being in a household. At that time, the longest I had been away from my parents was 2 weeks, and I got to go to my godparents' house. Right. And so fast forward, here I go into adulthood, moving to a new state, thinking I'm, visiting with my brother, and then at some point go home and then say, Mom, I want to go back to Tennessee. And she said, hey, check this list and you can go. And then now it's just me. Now this is where life begins in a real way, because I don't have anybody giving me a curfew. I don't have anybody directing me saying yes or no. This is all on me to do. So I'll say this. I never stopped going to church ever. I never felt that ever. That like I knew I had a choice to make, and that wasn't the choice to leave the church. I stayed close to God. However, that did not alleviate me from making certain choices and bumping my head. And I will say, even while I went to church every Sunday, I made some not good decisions, but it did shape me into who I am today, because I had to make certain choices, meaning I had to grow. I had to learn. I had to develop. I had to learn how to socialize without the, lack of a better term, without the rearing of my parents. I'm not asking them, oh, can I go here now? Could I do this? I had to decide for myself, and I bumped my head, but I appreciate, going back to the top, I appreciate the foundation, because I always had the word to draw back on. And it wasn't just, hey, I'm going to give you a scripture, or, hey, come to church Sunday. No, my parents taught me how to apply the word to my life. And for that is one of the biggest gifts my parents could ever give me, because in essence, it wasn't, let me teach you how to just apply the word to your life. For me, the lesson was, let me show you how to reach Jesus for yourself. Let me show you how to go to God for yourself, because one day I won't be able to tell you how to do that. And I need you to know how to do this, because it's even true to the word, train up a child in the way they should go, and when they're old, they won't depart from it. And that rung in my mind. My mom and dad, we learned chapters in the Bible. Like, we wasn't just learning verses, we were learning chapters. Like, I'm like, why do I have to know this? At that time, I didn't understand. But when I got out in life, I was like, oh, they're setting me up for life. So I hope I answered the question.
No, you did.
Like, it was a deep foundation that I didn't understand until I got older, which is, that helped me get through even in the times where I felt like I was making some oh my gosh, the worst decisions. But because of that rearing, that's why I never left. Now, when I'm a little misguided on my own, of course. But actually just leaving, no. And for that, I'm grateful.
Now, I know even with all of that, with how much they even set you up for life, for having a good foundation and all of that, nothing prepares you for when they're not here.
Yeah.
Nothing prepares you for that. It's just like, okay, well, where do I go from here? You know, like all the questions that you've had before, all of everything about dealing with life, that you've had your parents there to ask the question, so what do I do in this situation? But the moment they're gone, it's just like, okay, well, who do I ask now? Have you had those moments?
Every day. Every day. I have it all the time, especially now. Like, yeah, I have those. I have that, and it's challenging because, and I'll even go back to that earlier question you asked me. How was my last year? Suddenly losing my father, and then shortly after, 6 months later, losing my mom. Honestly, it challenges my identity because I can't pick up the phone anymore. Like, and my very being is challenged. It's bigger than I can't pick up the phone. My body wants to pick up the phone. My mind wants to pick. My mind, my heart, my everything wants that embrace. My everything wants that conversation. My everything wants them. And I can't ask anything ever again. And that sucks.
It does, yeah.
It sucks. I will say, even in that, while I question my very being, like, God is revealing himself to me in a way that I never knew I needed. And it it's challenging because I realize, even as a believer, like, oh, we rely on God, we need God, God this, God that. But now I'm in a space where the only one who can answer any question I'll ever have again is God.
It's God, yeah.
And I've had to posture myself. While it might be confusing to others, God is my lifeline. Like, I have a birthday coming up. Last year was my first birthday without my father. I can't even remember what I did on my birthday. This year is my first birthday without both of them. And I'll say this has been a challenging space and time. Because it's like, I know they're not here. And then I'm still trying to wrap my mind around that. It still hasn't sunk in. But then there are spaces where it does sink in, and then it's like, nah, it's like, I really, honestly, I feel like I'm sleepwalking. I feel like I'm about to wake up from a coma one day and they're gonna be like, girl, you just been asleep this whole time. That's really what I feel like. And so not being able to ask my parents questions or have a conversation or even ask questions like, Mom, I'm about to be this age. What's going on with my body? Look what popped up.
Yeah.
There's nothing that she could tell me anymore. Even with my father, it was a few years ago. My dad, we went out for my birthday. I went home and I spent the day with my father. He talked to me about relationships. And that was our first real conversation. That changed everything in me. It changed my approach to dating. It changed my approach to everything. Because my father, not that he never set a standard, but this is our first conversation. It felt like he set a whole new standard within me. And I just remember him talking to me. And one of the main things he said, whoever he is, make sure he loves the Lord. When he passed, he randomly passed. But before that, I got to spend so much time with my dad. I went home for a funeral. I got to spend so much time with him. And we had a partial conversation about that again. So when he passed, I said, my dad will never be able to walk me down the aisle. How would I know? How would I know if he liked someone? How would I know the standard? How would I know this? How would I know that? And recently, I sang at a friend's wedding. I actually wrote a song, sang at her wedding. And I watched her dad give her away. And that I was happy for her. But it broke my heart because I said, I'll never know what that feels like. Yeah. And it was, in that moment, it wasn't even just my dad. It was like, dang, my mom won't be there either. And then here we go to the reception. And she does something that I've never experienced at a wedding before or a reception. Before she throws the bouquet, she said, this is what the Holy Spirit told me to say. She's been speaking. I kid you not. I felt like she was talking directly to me. And I was like, this is crazy. And I laughed in that moment because internally, because I said, if I catch this bouquet, the guy I'm talking to, he ain't for me. Why I say that? I didn't even try to catch it for real.
And you caught it.
Kid you not. A lady dove for it. All I did, and I said, Lord, this is so symbolic to just how we should be as believers. I wasn't even trying to think deep, but she made me think deep with everything she was saying. Legit, I stood there and went like this. It lands in my hand.
Oh my, of course.
It lands in my hand.
Of course it did.
Of course it did.
Yeah.
It lands in my hand. I said, I said, why did you catch this? You dove for this. Why did you? It was the craziest thing.
Yeah.
But to my point, I remember going to the wedding, getting that happening, and I was on my drive home, and I remember talking to the Lord. And even I'll share the song with you later that I wrote. But even in what God gave me the song. And even within the lyrics of the song with me, I kept saying, how will I know? And my father's words came back to me. And I believe God brought it back to me. Does he love the Lord? That was simple. So I wrote that on a bouquet.
I love that.
And I know that was a long answer, but I am learning all my answers lie in God. It's challenging. I can't pretend like I don't cry. I was crying last night, girl. I've been crying every night, actually. But it's been one of those things, because it's interesting that you asked that, because I've been asking myself that same thing. Was it like the TikTok? How will they know?
How will they know?
How will they know? How will they know? And I'm like, Lord, how will I know?
Yeah.
And he said, I have everything you need. Even when it's hard.
Yeah.
Even when you don't understand, I'm right here. I saw these days before they would come. And I'm just like, man. So yeah, I realized, like, the answers that I need, I feel like I need, because I'm like, Lord, why did you, like, why did they have to go?
Yeah.
Like, now?
Yeah.
They had to go, like, now, like, come on now. I know there's a day and a time for all of us, but I'm like, they had to go now? I have so many more questions. Mm-hmm. There's so much more that I haven't done, but I feel like I need my parents for this.
Yeah.
And then there's that other space. It's like, well, they're not here anymore. Mm-hmm. And it's those moments that God says, don't worry. I'll be able to answer those questions for you. That's why I brought that reception up, because when she was talking, the words resonated with me so much. I felt like I was the only one in the room for a moment. I was like, she's talking to me. Like, did she hear what I've been praying about? Did she, like, I just told you earlier, God put me on a fast.
Yeah.
That fast was for clarity. And I asked God to give me clarity on my life, my relationships, people, and me. And God been pulling back the layers on me. And it was that particular moment, it was almost like, you've been wondering on this particular thing. Okay, I'm gonna give you an answer. These are my requirements. So the answers right now, and I'm pretty sure things fluctuate.
Yeah.
But God tells me, I got you. Whatever answers you need. So
He does, and that's the thing about God is He's just our source for everything and anything that we go through. And I know for me, for those who don't know, I lost my father when I was 14. And even now, a couple of days ago, I had the urge to call him.
Wow.
And in my mind, I was like, let me call my dad.
Wow.
But then I'm just like, what? Why am I feeling this way? Like, it's been so many years.
Yeah.
And I'm still feeling that way. Yeah. Of, let me call my dad. When I haven't even called him, you know?
Yeah.
So, and even when it came to marriage or dating, I didn't know what I was doing. I was like, Lord, I need you to help me. And I feel like what God will do is just give you peace. And even with finding the man or being with the man, I just feel like God will just give you peace. Like with me and Nick, we had a lot going on surrounding us, around us, that could have easily just broken us apart. And we broke apart. But it was just the peace that we had being together. And not just that, but it was what Nick was carrying that reflected parts of my father. Like how peaceful he was, how nice he was. Just the different things. And then I remember Nick said, I had a dream about your dad.
Oh, wow.
You never met my dad. How'd you have a dream? So he's had a few dreams about him. You know what I mean? So, and just even getting to that moment of walking down the aisle and knowing that my dad was not there. But I knew. First, I knew he was in my heart, but I knew the person that I was looking at down this aisle, I knew that my dad just approved. You know, like it was just that kind of peace.
Yeah.
I just can't explain it. But it still doesn't dismiss the feelings and the hurt and the brokenness that you feel, especially with coming from a daughter, you know?
Yeah.
Wow. So how have you been able to move around feeling the feelings of being just sad? How have you been able to live through that? The broken piece of it.
I let it happen. I don't pretend. Maneuvering through life, it is challenging, but I allow myself to feel, because for 6 months, I felt the grief of one parent. Mm-hmm. And then at the 6-month mark, now I'm feeling the grief of both parents. And I realize this is not something I can run from, mm-hmm. even if I try. Mm-hmm. So somehow I keep going, but then there are days, I will even use yesterday as an example. Sunday night, it was challenging. And Monday morning, I allowed myself to sleep for a while. Mm-hmm. I just sat and took a beat. And then there's other times, like just working in the shop, going to church, where like right before my dad passed, I got the assignment to be over a small group. I was teaching. Mm-hmm. I was doing so much. And so I was like, all right, Lord, I don't know if I should continue in these things, but if I do, I just need your strength. Mm-hmm. And so with me teaching, the Bible studies, I found that it was strengthening me, mm-hmm. because the lessons, I think one of the first lessons I taught was building on Jesus. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right. Mm-hmm. So it was almost like it was giving me the tools that I need to pick up the pieces in my sadness. So it became personal. Mm-hmm. When it was time for me to sing, I allowed the lyrics to resonate and really focused on that. And then honestly, one of the real challenges I've had, even with doing hair, it's actually, this is the crazy thing. I don't know if it's crazy, but doing hair was kind of one of those things that this is my bread and butter. Mm-hmm. I can't stop this if I wanted to. Mm-hmm. I have to show up, even when I didn't want to. That was probably the most challenging thing, mm-hmm. because this is something I have to do to pay my bills. Yeah. If I don't work, I don't eat. Mm-hmm. And I have to show up. Yeah. I have to. So there have been times where I had to stop doing hair and go to the bathroom and just cry it out. Yeah. There are times where sometimes I couldn't even make it to the bathroom. I didn't tell my client. Mm-hmm. I'm silently just, yeah. I've had those moments. I've had moments to where people have mistaken my sadness for me being upset and angry. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I can't expect people to understand, because while the world is normal to them, my world has been shaken up. Mm-hmm. Sometimes my sadness looked like me fighting the urge to not go down to a dark space. Girl, I painted my wall. Yeah. I painted my wall.
I saw that.
I painted my wall. Okay. Because
why not?
Why not? At least I'm not out here in these streets, doing something crazy. I was like, that day, it was so emotional. I was filled with so much sorrow that I don't even know how I was able to think rationally enough to just say, let me paint the wall. Yeah. But I'm like, I cannot self-destruct. That's all I cannot mm-hmm. self-destruct, girl. I just start painting the wall. Mm-hmm. It's like, I'm doing something tonight, but it won't be something that's going to cost me my life, So that's how I maneuver through the sadness. And honestly, while all those things are true, mm-hmm. it's all going to circle back to the same thing, the word. Yeah. When I tell you, this has deepened my relationship with the Lord, mm-hmm. especially because I know I'm grieving. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, Lord, I know how this can go. And I know this grief is not going to go away. I do know that, Lord, in time, you're going to ease the pain. But if I cannot allow this to rule me. Mm-hmm. I need to feel where I am, but it cannot rule me. And so I've become a lot more intentional about opening up my word. I don't care what I read. I just, Lord, here I am.
Yeah.
Because if I don't lean on you, I'm going to break.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Like earlier I was saying, God has truly, in a way that I never knew I realized, excuse me, he is my lifeline. And so when I'm sad, I'm like, whew, can we get in this word real quick?
Yeah.
When I'm feeling angry about their death, I'm like, let me get in the word. And sometimes it's not that easy to just get in the word.
No.
I'm not going to even say it's easy.
Yeah.
It's just been more so a necessity. And that's what's carried me. That's when I'm deep in my sadness. And then there's times I just let it happen.
Yeah.
Like the other day, I just, like, dang, this is real life. So I found many ways to maneuver and try to get through it without self-destructing.
Yeah, that's good.
And in life with people. And it's really challenging with people because, again, they're not in my shoes. Right. And I try not to burden people. And not that I feel bad about being in grief, but the truth is it becomes more irritating than anything. Trying to navigate because people mean well. They mean well.
They mean well.
They do mean well.
They do. But
yeah.
Yeah.
But in sadness, and when people don't understand it, a lot of people take things personal.
Yeah.
When you withdraw, they like, what did I do? Like,
yeah.
Here, I just lost both my parents.
Yeah.
I'm not even here today.
Right.
But so it's whether I want to or not, I don't walk on eggshells, but at times it feels like I do because nobody's living my experience. Right. So I can't dump that on people, but I also can't be sorry for how I feel. Yeah. So it's like, it's that.
Yeah. Yeah. Is there like a certain thing that people will tell you, let's just say they see you grieving? What are those things that people will say? Like,
don't be sad. Don't be sad. The worst thing in life has happened to me. And I know they mean well. I know they're trying to cheer me up.
Yeah.
Don't be sad. Don't cry. Hey, fix your face.
What?
Smile. No, I don't want to smile.
Somebody told you to fix your face. Who done told you to fix your face?
It's happened. It's happened.
Well, what?
Fix your face. Smile. Why are you feeling? What's going on with you today? What's happening with me every day? You mean?
Yeah.
You know. So it's like those things.
There's literally no time that grief. Yeah. Like we don't know when grief is gonna end.
Yeah.
The thing is, you can help yourself, or you can find help through it.
Yeah.
But grieving is a thing. Like
it's real.
It's real, and you really can't rush through it.
Yeah. You
really can't. So just telling somebody it'll get better soon.
Yeah.
We don't know.
And they don't realize sadness isn't the only thing.
Yeah.
It's so much that grief encompasses.
Yes.
Like,
yeah.
It's sadness, it's anger, it's disbelief. It's depression. It's so much that's in it all. And I know I didn't even mention therapy. I'm getting ready to start therapy, but one of the most irritating things is when people say, go to therapy. I'm still trying to wrap my mind around the fact that this is even a thing. And again, I believe therapy works. Yeah. I don't have a problem with therapy. I have no problems with it at all. But it irritates me because I don't think people understand. And I'll say this for me. I can't speak for others. For me, therapy, again, it's not a bad thing. I definitely think it's for certain people, it's necessary.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think it's for everyone, but I do think everyone, if somebody chooses to do it, they can benefit from it. So I need to make that clear. But when I say, all right, I'm going to go to a therapist. It's not just therapy. It's the fact that I have to call a therapist at all, because I'm not calling them just because I want to chop it up.
Yeah.
I'm going to them for grief.
Yeah.
And my grief is, oh, wait, this is reality.
Yeah.
They're not here.
Yeah.
I picked up the phone to call a therapist. Mm-hmm. I don't even know if they knew. The fact that I picked up the phone, I cried that entire phone call just to set up the appointment. Because I was like, oh, shoot, I'm on the phone with a therapist. In my mind, I'm on the phone with a therapist. Wait a minute. My parents are gone. Like, what? And then I'm like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
I'm having so many emotions to even get to that place. So I think people don't understand, like, sometimes not saying something is really a great thing.
Yeah. It's
a big thing.
Yeah.
Because people assume that because you lost someone, you need a flood of scriptures. Mm-hmm. You need a flood of YouTube videos. Yeah. You need a flood of conversation or words. They think you need so many things. And I know that people mean well. Mm-hmm. But one of the things I've needed the most from people really was presence and silence. Mm-hmm. Just be here with me.
Do you feel like you've gotten that?
Honestly, you want the real answer?
I want the real.
No. Mm. No. I don't think I've gotten that. Because people don't know what to do in the space. Mm-hmm. They do the most. And so it's caused me to withdraw. Mm-hmm. Because sometimes I don't need conversation.
Do you feel like that's caused you to, have you felt isolated?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Because that's when the irritation comes. Mm-hmm. Isolation is keeping me from, it's actually protecting people from how I really feel. Because I know my emotions are heightened because of the grief. Yeah. I know they're heightened because people are trying to figure out what to say and what to do. And they think they're giving me what I need. And really what I need is presence. Mm-hmm. Sometimes honestly, people think I'm sitting, I really think people think I'm at home boohooing, sliding down the wall. Mm-hmm. Sometimes there are times I'm boohooing, mm-hmm. but in many cases, there are times I'm sitting in silence, mm-hmm. and I'm breathing and I'm thinking, and that's it. Yeah. And I need to make this clear. Not every grieving person needs the same things, mm-hmm. but what I needed was simple. Just sit with me. Mm-hmm. Now I'm at a space. I don't care if I get that now. Mm-hmm. Because I've been going through the motions already. Mm-hmm. I talk with my siblings because they understand. Yeah. You know, we can pick up the phone. One of us is crying, and we just we get it. Yeah. You know, because we lost the same two people. Right. We've lived that experience together. Right. But from outsiders, and I say outsiders lightly, not like somebody just bad, but until a person suffers a great loss, and I'm not saying people don't lose people, mm-hmm. but there's an impact mm-hmm. of certain types of losses that happens that just shifts something inside of you. Yeah. I tell people all the time, I am me, but I am not the same me I was. Mm-hmm.
So even speaking on that, I know you mentioned identity earlier. So do you feel like you found your identity, or you still like your new identity?
I feel like it's going to be revealed over time. Mm-hmm. And I may already maybe in it, but I lost both parents. Yeah. The reasons I am in this world, the one who planted the seed and the one who nurtured the mm-hmm. seed, they're gone. Mm-hmm.
Did you feel like you knew your identity before?
I do. I feel like, I feel like I finally had got to a place where I was solid, which is why I answered the way I answered earlier. And you know what? Let me go back, because you asked me who I am. I gave my first and middle name. I'm Rebecca Henry. That's who I am.
Yeah.
And so I said it like that because I remember years ago, people would always say, who are you? And I thought I had to have this long, elaborate answer and all these things. And I'm like, it's not that deep. Yeah. It's deep, but it's not that deep. Right. Who I am, I'm Rebecca Doreé Henry. That's who I am. You know, and so I finally got solid in that space. Going back to even how I was saying the conversation I had with my father, talk to my mom almost every day. Just the things they instilled inside of me, I finally become solid in. Yeah, I'm okay. I'm okay with not being like everybody else, even at my big old age. You know, it was something that clicked inside of me that said, you know what? All right, this is who I am. And I'm not ashamed of it. I'm not trying to compromise. I'm not trying to prove anything to anyone. And then my dad passes. And I'm like, what the heck? And then my mom passes. And for some reason, it feels like all of that got shaken up. Not that I don't know that I'm Rebecca Doreé Henry, but it's like, who am I now without them? Yeah. Because the Rebecca people knew she had her father. She could pick up the phone and have conversations with him. The Rebecca people knew could pick up the phone and have a conversation with her mother. Just the fact that they were here. Yeah. It was something. And then it's like, I can't reach them. Right. And for me, when I talk about identity, it goes back to even what you're saying, asking me like, how do I get answers to the questions now? Now, I tell people all the time, I feel like I had to grow up. Like, oh man, I've been an adult for as long as I can remember, but now I was like, I gotta grow up. Yeah. I have to. Because how I see it, in my perspective, I appreciate my siblings. But almost every one of my siblings are married or have been married. They have families, their own families. Yeah. And I'm like, I know it's not just me, but to an extent, I'm like, it's just me. Like, what now? Yeah. Like, what I really feel like there's this big old space and I'm standing right here. And I'm like, do I go front? Do I go back? Where do I go? What direction am I supposed to go in? And that's why I rely so much on God, because I feel like he's the only one that could tell me to take a step forward or take a step back and go left, go right. Yeah. Because, again, I have my siblings, but they're grieving too. Yeah. We're probably all trying to figure out the same thing, but they're doing it with spouses and children. Right. And with me, when I reach, there's nobody for me to hold. Like, there's no hand to hold. Like, it's so in that sense of identity, I don't get to ask my mom anymore, what do you think about this? Hey, Dad, what do you think about that? I have to rely on everything that they've taught me. And it's like, okay, where do I implement these teachings now? Yeah. You know, so that's what it looks like to me. Identity is like, and I will share this. This is something God revealed to me recently. God is eternal. Right? We're human beings. At some point, our physical being will not exist anymore. And I remember God telling me, I'm eternal. Your identity is found in me. I'm eternal. I tell you who you are because I created you. They were the vessels. I tell you who you are. And so, no, I haven't completely figured that out. I know I'm a child of God. I know these things. But in grief, I feel like there's smoke. And God is like, I am your lamp and light. So as soon as you see this light, that's what you step on. Wherever that light is, that's what you step on. Don't try to create your own steps, because you're in the dark. You're in this, it's a lot of smoke right now. But I'll light your path for you. And for me right now, God is saying, stop worrying about the destination. Just follow my directions. And focus on the journey, because I'll show you who you are. Yeah. If you let me. Yeah. So for me, I know I'm Robbie and Debbie's youngest baby girl. God is molding me and he's growing me up. Yeah. So. Yeah.
So I'm going to ask a couple of questions. So could you walk me through the moments of finding out you lost your father? Ooh. And walk me through the moments of finding out you lost your mother. Like, what were your feelings? How did you feel? Where were you in that time?
Oh, man. February 22nd, 2024. I believe I got the call around between 6:24 and 6:40, somewhere between there. I was sitting in Kroger parking lot. I just finished spending time with the guy I was talking to at the time. And I left home because I was like, oh, yeah, I got to wash clothes. I didn't have no washer or dryer. And I went to Kroger to go get me some snacks because I was about to go to the laundromat. And of course, the infamous car sit. Just sit in the car for no good reason. Yeah. Boy. I remember my phone ringing. My big brother called me. And I have a great relationship with all of my siblings. And I say that to say, because me and him, we don't talk often. Yeah. But he's calling me. And I was like, he's calling me. That's the thought that ran through my mind. And he tells me, he said, where are you? I said, I'm sitting in the car. He's like, I gotta tell you something. He said, Dad passed away. Like, don't play with me. It's not funny. It's like, why would I play about this? I said, why are you telling me he passed away? That doesn't make sense. Like, it's not funny. And I remember he was like, our dad, Robbie Keith Henry Sr., he passed away. I was like, what? I was like, oh, you're serious? It's like, it's crazy. Like, that doesn't make sense. We were just texting all in the family messages. I said, it's like, that just doesn't make sense. And I remember getting off the phone and I still just didn't believe it. I just was like, it's like, maybe I'm dreaming. I'm asleep. I think I'm asleep. I think I'm asleep. And they said, we're going to FaceTime you because you need to see the body. I was like, I don't want to see the body. He's like, you need to see. And they FaceTime. And they were trying to revive. I guess they tried to revive him. He had the tubes. And he just looked like he went to sleep. My dad legit just went to sleep.
He was at home?
He was at home in his bed. He took a shower, got dressed, and he had sciatica nerve issues. So I bought him this thing for his knee, and he put that on. And he laid down and went to sleep. And I just was like, this is crazy. And from that moment forward, I legit felt like I was sleepwalking. And then my mother, I remember my mother wasn't doing too well after my dad passed. She already was struggling with some things. And it kind of took a toll on her health. And so we were all like, hey, we're going to pitch in. And I was like, Lord, I want to go home to help with mom because my siblings, they do so much. Mm-hmm. Like, they do a lot. Mm-hmm. And I said, I want to do my part because I want to be present. Mm-hmm. And I remember her birthday, August 8th. I remember in July, I was supposed to go home, but I was battling so much. Like, after my dad passed, mm-hmm. It was hard for me to work. It was hard for me to do anything. So I was struggling financially, like mm-hmm. really bad, and just trying to keep things afloat. And I got this letter. They're like, "Oh, we're going to evict you." I was like, "Here we go with this mess." Mm-hmm. So God helped me handle that, but also had to miss that week that I wanted to go home. The plan was I go home for a week. I was going to go back and surprise my mom for her birthday. Mm-hmm. But even in that still kind of worked out because me not going home that week not only allowed me to go home for her birthday, but I was like, okay, I could stay 2 weeks. I remember flying home, getting there on her birthday, and she declined a lot. So I was there. Mm-hmm. I just went home. I told my siblings, go do whatever y'all need to do. I'm fine. It was like, you sure you have anything you need to do? It's like, no, I'm gonna be here with my mom. Mm-hmm. Like, friends, I didn't care about none of that. Mm-hmm. I remember being by her side. I laid on the floor next to her every day. Whatever she needed, I was like right there. And I hugged and kissed on my mom. And I remember telling my mom, I was like, Mom, I honor you. I'm glad I could come home. You're not a burden. Like, I love you. Like, you took care of all of us. Mm-hmm. The household. My dad, I say, Mom, this is your time to be loved on and to be cared for. So I need you to know that. And my siblings, they were coming. We played music and sing to her. And then I remember the doctor coming and was saying, he was telling us she was like, oh, she's fine. She's, all the things. And then one day, she's like, I just believe my mom was just ready to go. And I remember it was like, I don't know what happened between this time and then, but she doesn't have long. It was like, that doesn't make sense. Mm-hmm. Like, what do you mean? Like, she don't have long. And so during that time period home, I planned to go on a cruise with my sister, my brother-in-law, and my niece. And we had talked to my mom about it, and she had already told us, like, yeah, go, have fun, all the things. But by the time it was time for us to leave, that's when we got the news. And my mom had become nonverbal. And I remember that day, I hadn't really left the house. My brother gave me his card. He was like, I know y'all got the cruise today. I'm going to be here. My niece was there. He was like, go to the store, get what you need. I got what I needed, and I came back, and we opened the door so my mom could get some sunlight. Mm-hmm. And it was crazy. When I got home, I just looked at her, and it was like the sunlight was that very thing she needed. I remember getting ready to leave the house. I knew it. I hugged her. I said, Mom, please be here. Please be here when I get back. I have to tell you about my first cruise. I gotta tell you. I have so much to tell you. We got to the cruise. That Saturday morning, I heard a knock on the door. I was asleep, mm-hmm. like sleep. and I heard a knock on the door. So I was in a room with my niece. I said, I think it's your Auntie Petey, answer the door. She opens the door and she said, Mom passed. I said, what? I just remember I couldn't even cry. I just was existing at that point. Mm-hmm. I just left. I gave my sister a hug and I took a walk. And I was just like, I don't know. Mm-hmm. I felt sleep again, all over again. Just when I felt like I was waking up, mm-hmm. I felt like I went back to sleep. Mm-hmm. And my head was so clouded. And I just took a walk and I sat and I asked the people, I was like, can I sit out on the deck? And I told them what was going on. I was like, y'all, I'm not going to jump. I'm okay. Because mm-hmm. I know they thought like, so no, I need to breathe. Mm-hmm. And that's all I did. I just sat. And so that's how I found out for both. And it was just like, I can't believe this is happening. Yeah. Like, even in this moment, like, I can't believe it. Mm-hmm. Like, yeah. So those were the moments. Mm-hmm. And my mom passed away August 17th, 2024. I believe it was around, because we got the call. My sister came in between 4:30 and 5 a.m., but my mom passed away, I believe, 2:45 a.m. And she was peaceful. My sister said she laid her head on her hand and went to sleep. And yeah.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that. Really do. You're welcome. If there was something that you can tell somebody who is going through or who had gone through the same thing that you have, what would that be?
To like encourage them, or
to encourage them, to just pour out your heart to them?
I would say, don't suppress it. Grief is not easy. I'm still in it freshly. It was just a year from my father. It hasn't even been a year from my mother. And honestly, the time doesn't necessarily matter in a sense, but just know that grief is a walk. It's not a run. Allow yourself to feel. For me, the word of God is literally pulling me through. Be mindful that you don't develop habits that's going to hold you hostage for the rest of your life. That's why I painted the wall. I can paint over a wall. Self-destruct is real. Fight it with everything in you while you're allowing yourself to feel. Because while your loved one, blood or not blood, while they're gone on, your life does not stop. It might be on pause in a sense that you're trying to get your bearings. You might feel like you're sleepwalking like me. You might feel so many different things. You might feel anger. You might feel indifference. You might feel a lot. But know that your life does not stop. And if anything, how we talked about identity, understand that this is truly where your life begins in another way. My parents, man, they were my life. Even being across the states. If my parents needed me, I would hop on the plane and be right there. And I did. Ensure if you not experience grief in this caliber, be mindful of the things you say. Be mindful of the things you do. Live on God's principles, meaning try not to live in a manner that you're going to regret if that person you love and care about, that you're going to be sorry that you did not do something or sorry that you did do something. Live a life of character and intention. Be intentional about your loved ones. The words you say, it's not like breaking up with somebody. It's not like losing a friendship. While grief is not just for death, physical death, grief can fall into any other category of life. But the thing about physical death is final. So be mindful of how you treat the ones you say you love and the ones you say you care about, because at some point, that's going to be it. And create good memories. Let all that petty stuff die. You don't need it. Love on your people just because. And if you have crossed that threshold of grief, be encouraged, because you have life left. And while I joked about it earlier, understand that people do really mean well. They do. They haven't walked in your shoes. They're trying. They're trying to love you through this space. They're trying to figure out how to help you, their loved one, because you are dealing with something heavy and they don't understand, and they just really want to help, and they're helping the best way they know how. So understand that grief is challenging for everyone, even for the person that's not in your shoes, because they care, because they want to help. They want to take a pain away, but they can't. And you're trying to figure out how to get through this pain that you've never felt before. So just love. Be patient, be kind, be gentle to yourself. And understand that, God will ease the pain, and feel where you are. It's okay to be where you are. It's challenging, but be where you are so you don't have to deal with that later on in life. And you'll get through it, because I am.
Thank you so much for sharing that.
You're welcome.
We got through it.
Girl.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And thank you guys so much for watching. I really do hope that this was able to just help you open up your heart a little bit, open up your mind a little bit, and just find something that you can hold on to. Just like Becca mentioned, as far as the Word of God, there's life in that. And I would just suggest just opening it up, asking God, Lord, what do you want me to read today? And just find life in that. Grief is not easy. I still struggle. But just knowing that you have people here that have gone through it and still going through it. There is a community, and there are people here that can help you as well. So again, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for tuning in. Please make sure you subscribe if you haven't. Tell somebody else about this. Share this with somebody that you feel needs it. We just want to get the word out, and we just really want to help. We just really want to support, and we really just want to create this community for you. So thank y'all so much. I love you, And we'll see you guys next time. And thank you, Becca.
You're welcome.
Love y'all.
Love you, girl. Love you, Becca.